What makes a horror game truly terrifying? For decades, developers have followed a familiar formula: eerie locations, grotesque enemies, and just enough resources to keep you clinging to a sense of control. You are vulnerable, but never completely powerless. There's always a weapon to find, a way to heal, and a fleeting moment of safety. But the most effective horror doesn't just scare you. It strips away your control piece by piece until you realize you were never in charge to begin with. Imagine being trapped in a decrepit asylum, the only light source a flickering camcorder and the sound of heavy menacing footsteps closing in from the darkness. No weapon to fight back, only the desperate urge to run and hide. Outlast is a first-person survival horror game developed and published by Red Barrels, an independent video game company founded by industry veterans Felipe Morin, David Chatenouf, and Hugo Dallaire, who have worked on games such as Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and Uncharted. Miles Upshur, a freelance journalist, receives a tip-off from an anonymous source claiming they did a 2-week software consult at Murkoff's psychiatric systems facilities. The writer says that terrible things are happening here, and Murkoff is hurting people for profit. He puts away the paper, grabs his camcorder, and gets out of his car. Upon breaking into the hospital, he jumps into a completely dark room in disarray. Glass on the floor and blood soaked into the carpet. After walking through multiple empty rooms in silent, bloody halls, you find a document, which is a common collectible in the Outlast series. They are meant to explain the backstories behind the game's events. The contents in the first document read, Murkoff Psychiatric Systems, Project Walrider. This 19-year-old patient was nicknamed Billy. He claims to have progressed to self-directed lucid dream states. MRI revealed an atypical REM and REM cycle, laughter in NREM state. This petition asked us for the status of his mother's lawsuit against Murkoff after he discovered the truth. After having blood dreams about Dr. Traeger, progressing through the rooms, Miles comes across hanging and dead corpses. He encounters an impaled tactical officer.
They killed us. You got out. The berries. You have to get the fuck out of this terrible place.
Who in his dying moments tells the journalist to get out of the asylum while he still can. Miles writes in his journal, I'm inside, bodies everywhere, blood, burn marks, heads lined up like bottles behind a bar, dead Murkoff scientists hung from the ceiling. Their badges say Murkoff's Advanced Research Systems. Murkoff's longtime MO has been to profit off the exploitation of supposed charity. Fuck the torrid world and bankrolled another billion. How did Murkoff think they would make money from a building full of crazy people? There's some kind of tactical cop pinned like a pig on a spit. Tells me to get the fuck out and then dies. Would have been a good thing to hear when I could still leave the way I came. This premise immediately establishes a critical element of powerlessness. Miles is not a soldier or operative, but a civilian, unequipped for what lies ahead. Trying to shimmy your way through some bookshelves.
Little pig.
Miles' first significant encounter is with Chris Walker, a massive deformed inmate and one of the game's primary antagonists. He is referenced in the game's document as Variant 9-241. He was a former military police officer deployed in Afghanistan before being institutionalized at Mount Massive Asylum, described in personnel reports as prone to excessive violence and obsessed with order. Walker is a man broken by both warfare and Murkoff's wall rider experiments. Walker is introduced by grabbing Miles by the throat and chucking him through the window like a rag doll. This establishes the predator-prey relationship immediately. Chris is the apex predator in Mount Massive. He can appear without warning and overpower Miles in seconds. Upon regaining consciousness, he encounters Father Martin.
And who are you, then?
A delusional priest-like figure who believes the horrors within the asylum is a necessary step towards a higher spiritual purpose. Martin is also a reoccurring character, simultaneously and endangering Miles. Upon his feet again, Miles comes across an inmate who is emaciated and almost lifeless in a wheelchair, and some in a room locked in watching a static TV. The most effective horror elements lie in its unsettling roster of NPC inmates known as the Variants. Sometimes sympathetic, sometimes monstrous, but always unpredictable.
Get them out, please! The guys are in there! Listen, please! You're there, please!
Miles grabs the security card to access the security system. The power gets turned off by Father Martin. After, you hear someone heading towards the door. This is Outlast's main and greatest mechanics. After escaping, Miles is now trapped in the basement of the building with a hostile variant, being immediately alerted when he hears the generator turn on. Outlast strips the player of any offensive capability. There are no weapons, no combat mechanics, only running, hiding, with a camcorder with night vision. The night vision mechanic emphasizes this helplessness. While it grants visibility in pitch black areas, its battery drains quickly, forcing the player to scavenge for replacements. This creates a persistent tension between exploration and survival. Chase sequences are especially disempowering. When enemies detect Miles, the only options are to flee or hide, in lockers or under beds. These sequences strip away strategic control, replacing it with primal fight or flight instinct. After sneaking through the area, Miles flips on the switch and gets the power back on. Making it out of the basement, he goes back to the office to access the security system. You get sedated by Father Martin.
The only way out of this place is the truth. Accept the gospel, and all doors will open before you.
Waking up in a padded cell with blood on the wall, incoherent scribblings and drawings, Miles finds himself in a prison block and sees the state of the place. He hears echoes, screams, and sobbing. Along his walk, he meets the twins.
Who's this?
Both are entirely naked. Their pale, almost corpse-like skin covered in scars and lesions. The twins are uniquely disturbing because, unlike most inmates, they are neither incoherent nor overtly deranged. Instead,
Maybe Father Martin's man.
Maybe.
He looks nervous.
I would like to kill him.
As would I.
The preacher asked us not to.
they are lucid, articulate, and eerily calm, which makes them even more terrifying because they juxtapose the madness around them in an incredibly calm tone.
I want his tongue. And liver.
They are yours.
They discuss killing Miles and taking his tongue and liver, but decide not to do so yet, for it will be impolite towards Father Martin, who told him not to touch Miles. These inmates sit silently in cells or corners, talking to themselves, banging their heads against the wall, vandalizing the wall with blood. Their insanity is expressed through sadism and brutality, a byproduct of prolonged exposure to violence and failed experiments. Miles makes his way up some stairs and jumps down a hole. He falls into a cell. Making his way through the hallway, he sees a variant bashing a security guard's head with a baton. The first time he sees you, he is non-hostile.
I'd like you to stay quiet.
But after you walk down to the end of the hallway and open the door to the security room and see another variant, in which he immediately starts chasing you. The other guy with the baton starts chasing you as well. So you could try and weave them, or you can hide and then try to sneak past them. to get to the security room, so you can activate the airlock. Miles makes his way downstairs, and he meets two familiar faces again.
Paragons of patience.
Job-like in the suppression of our desires.
Miles gets back down to the prison block and sees Chris Walker. Miles picks up a key card to access the shower room, but is quickly cornered by one of the twins. If you try to run back, you get caught by the other twin. So Miles has to climb out of a window and shimmy to another window to go around them. After activating another airlock, Miles is surprised by Chris Walker once again. The door you came through is somehow locked, but you could climb up the vents, running frantically through the halls. And the explosion causes Miles to get blown out the window. He's alive. Miles looked down to see what broke his fall. It is a pile of bodies. The power goes out. Miles is trapped in an abandoned prison block, being hunted by Chris Walker. You can either hide under the bed until he moves away or sneak around him. And you get caught in a chase sequence. You are safe after you crawl underneath a small space in this cell. Miles walks into another part of the prison block. He meets a blindfolded individual. He is distinguishable by his bandages, straitjacket, and of course, the likely improvised ragged cloth stained with blood and grime, carelessly wrapped around his head. He follows Miles as he walks around the area. Though not hostile, he makes comments about how he wants to help Miles. He also comments how silky he looks and complains about an itch. You come across other helpless inmates, even being attacked yourself. He reads an obituary document that is about Rudolf Wernick, a man who passed away at age 90. He was born in Germany and helped with the German war efforts. Lots of decades later, he did a lot of work for Murkoff Corporations. After exploring the block, Miles finds a hole and sees blood on the floor and the word Walrider written everywhere. Miles finds himself in the sewers and must find a way out. Take a guess on who is here with us. You have to turn 2 valves to flush away the water. It's actually pretty easy to evade Chris. All you have to do is crawl through the many holes laid out in the sewers, or squeeze yourselves in between 2 pillars. After turning the 2 valves, you can use the ladder to access the lower junction and find a way to escape the sewers. Miles meets a variant hiding in the darkness.
You don't have to be scared of me. I can tell we're the same. You still know it's real.
He explains that Dr. Wernick is still somehow doing experiments on living patients, even though he is dead. You come across the next section of the sewers. And it's bloody. After walking through many tight drained passageways and broken catwalks, Miles finds a large flooded area that is completely dark. This has to be one of the scariest sections in the game. The game tricks you into being paranoid. It is just a vast open area, hearing the absence of sound. Then, the sudden spike of music. You hear yourself trudging in the water, Miles quivering, breathing. Sometimes you hear something in the water, but no one is there. You are truly alone in this section. However, after crawling underneath this gate, that changes quickly. After stepping into the water, you immediately hear Chris Walker's chains. Miles has to reach the stairwell with the light being cast over it. This section is not difficult if you just keep your distance from Chris by listening to audio cues. Don't get too excited, because after getting out, you immediately get attacked by a variant. After running away, Miles makes his way to the male ward. The objective is to make his way to the ground floor. Making his way to the last room at the end of the hallway, you hear a loud banging noise. You see a person shaking, lying down in the fetal position. Someone is trying to break into the room. As you get closer to the door, the person seems to run away. Pushing the big box out of the way, you open the door and no one is there. Crawling underneath the small space, you find a patient room and see blood smeared on the floor and the walls and mutilated corpses. You find a patient status report by Rick Traeger. This document comes from Traeger's perspective. He explains that one of his patients didn't make it, most likely referencing the experiments. He says that he's just a doctor, not a miracle worker, but also implies that he's probably not a trained doctor with qualifications. He also explains that Murkoff has to control the Project Walrider because they have been losing money. Crawling into a vent, you see a security guard tied to a chair. He wakes up and starts screaming, alerting several nearby variants who start bashing on the door. They chase Miles through varied rooms, but when Miles enters a dead end, someone speaks to him through the intercoms.
Who's down there? You're not one of them, are you? Quick, get in the dumbwaiter if you want to live!
He tells Miles to crawl into this box elevator thing, and of course, he does so, since he doesn't really have a choice. We meet Dr. Traeger.
You made the right choice here, buddy.
He knocks Miles down and ties him to a wheelchair. He rolls a disoriented Miles around the building hallway. We pass the exit.
You know, I love the mountain air up here at night. You want to head out and take a stroll? Go ahead, I'll wait here. Go on, run free. I'm in no hurry. No? All right.
And Traeger taunts him before putting him in an elevator. While rolling around in the wheelchair, we see the horrors of the ward. You pass blood-streaked floors and walls, mutilated patients still alive, moaning in agony. He brings us to this little disgusting office. Traeger is a special kind of horror antagonist. His horror lies not just in his violence, but how he frames it.
You know, I'm a bit worried how much time you've been spending with Father Martin.
He speaks in a casual tone, not seeing the sadistic nature in his actions. Traeger turns the medical ward into a torture chamber, seeing patients as projects, not people, tapping into the primal fear about losing control over our bodies in a place meant to protect us. Anyways, he cuts off Miles' fingers and then leaves the room. Miles is able to wiggle himself out of the chair and get his camera. He witnesses another patient of Traeger bound to the bed. He is shortly killed by Traeger with the same shears used to remove Miles' fingers. Miles is able to run away to the end of the right hallway and hide behind the bed. This section is pretty confined, so you could run into Traeger at any moment. The objective is to push that box away from the door to get in, grab a key, and unlock an elevator that is down. Dr. Traeger has a particular movement pattern in the game. First, he goes inside any of these rooms, looks in this hallway, then comes to the end of the hallway to where you're probably hiding, behind the bed. When Traeger walks away, you want to run into the first room to the left, run to the door, push the box to grab the key, and unlock the elevator. Right after you grab the key, Traeger tries to break the door and chase Miles, and he makes his way to the elevator just in time. Traeger doesn't want to give up, so he gets in the elevator with Miles. Traeger gets trapped in the door, marking the end of his wrath. Miles leaves through the ceiling hatch and exits through the first floor. There he encounters Father Martin.
God, you survived. I feared that secular maniac would carve you up like the others. Meet me outside. We're close now.
Who expresses relief that Miles is still alive. He then tells Miles to meet him outside. Miles walks through the locker room that continues onward and eventually enters a burning cafeteria. He encounters the arsonist, explaining his hate for Murkoff. You now have to turn on the sprinkler system to extinguish the fire. Chris Walker is in your way, and every time you turn on a valve, he will be alerted to your location, and he will chase you. Miles turns on the sprinkler and can finally exit the building. He now has to find Father Martin. Miles now has to trudge through the rainy courtyard of Mount Massive. He picks up a key to access the maintenance shed. You will notice that every time it thunders, you see a black ghost figure floating away. When Miles gets to the shed, he sees the same black figure trying to chase him. When he runs away, it disappears. Miles thinks it's the wall rider, climbs up a ladder he finds outside, and jumps into a broken segment of roofing until he goes through a hole in the fence, and then travels along the upper level until he discovers another hole. Along the way, he sees patients roaming around the area after jumping through the hole. He enters an open area that Chris Walker is patrolling once again. He then shimmies along a wall and enters another area. When Miles is heading to an alleyway, he is ambushed by Walker. After running around him and through a hole in the wall that Walker cannot fit through, he then enters the female ward through an open window. Miles sees Father Martin on a ledge, which triggers the next objective, which is to reach Father Martin using the upper floor. Traveling the ward, you see people pass by. He finds a staircase with arrows drawn in blood, indicating to travel up. After jumping over some broken sections, he reaches the top and finds Martin.
Nearly here! You can cross from the upper floors!
Miles hears a scream and finds an empty fuse box. Miles reaches the end of a hallway. You can go left or right to retrieve the fuses, but variants are patrolling both rooms, and if they see you, they will chase and pursue you. You can choose to be sneaky, or you could just burst into the room and break ankles. After Miles inserts all the fuses into the laundry room, he retrieves the key and has access to the third floor. Miles is told to follow the blood, shimmying along the remains of a floor and jumping a gap. In the room he enters, the floor collapses as he passes. As Miles recovers, the wall rider can be seen moving to the left. He finds a stack of beds and climbs up them, and then walks around the newly formed hole, seeing an arrow drawn in blood that points to the next room. As Miles is about to enter the room, one of the doors that was cracked open suddenly slams shut. Miles opens the door only to find the twins waiting inside for him. Of course, he runs away from them, hiding underneath the bed, waiting for one of the twins to pass. Miles runs away and goes into the same room and exits the rear right. In this room, most of the floors are missing. Miles moves across where he can, and on the final jump, his camcorder flies out of his hands and falls through a crack in the floor beneath him. Miles climbs up quickly to avoid the collapsing boards. So he has officially lost his camcorder. The camcorder isn't just a tool for survival, it is a symbol of his identity. Even when he's physically powerless, cornered, or mutilated, Miles can still document. He can bear witness. It's his only means of fighting back against the horrors of massive asylum. When Miles tries to go into the darkness without his camera, he covers his face, being physically unable to move forward, showing that he has been stripped away of his only safety net, making him vulnerable. Miles drops down, navigating the dark with the variant-infested section without it, relying on only ambient lighting until you retrieve it. Once Miles finds his camcorder, which is now permanently cracked, he is ambushed by multiple variants who chase him until he escapes by climbing up the lockers and into the bathroom. Miles then returns to the room where he lost the camcorder. He then goes to the administration block, now being able to get to the upper levels once again. Miles will find a variant. After pushing through 2 areas,
Only one way out. Only one way.
of a narrow passage, Chris Walker will appear at the end of the hall. He goes through the third door on the left, finds an open vent, and moves up it. As Miles navigates down the vent, he finds a body, pushes it down, and then enters the area near the elevator to hear a variant telling him to go to the theater and find a key. Upon entering the recreation hall,
The key to the house of God is in the theater, behind the light. In the theater, behind the light. You have to see the movie, so that's where I left the car.
Miles hears a piano being played. He walks up to the door and sees a variant. Continuing into the theater,
Exit interview recorded December 27th, 1985. 225 in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Clearance Sierra Alpha. Subject Dr. Rudolph Wernicke, 14866.
All the lights turn on. An interview with Rudolph Wernicke is playing, explaining how the lucid dream experiments were conducted. Miles walks around the theater and witnesses the corpses still sitting at the table. Miles continues to travel upwards and shimmies across the ledge into the room with the projector of the film. He finds a key and leaves the theater, heading upstairs. Right when he's about to leave, one of the twins enters, holding a cleaver. Walking near him will result in an instant death, so you have to sneak around him. After leaving, Miles returns to the elevator and uses the key to unlock the gate and goes upstairs. Miles then finds a room with a broken window and shimmies his way into another room. He finds painted in blood, "God hates sickness." Miles arrives at the chapel where the twins are seen opening the door for Miles. After entering the room, he sees Father Martin tied up to a cross, where he gives a speech.
You will watch and record my death, my resurrection, and together we will be free.
And emulates himself. Father Martin is a mysterious, soft-spoken, yet intensely fanatical priest. Unlike other variants who act purely on violence or madness, Martin is driven by delusional fate.
Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle.
He believes that the horrors of Mount Massive are manifestations of divine. Miles is powerless to intervene. He can only film the event. This brings up the next objective, which is to ride the elevator and take the main exit. When Miles goes up the vents and walks down the hallway, in which he is chased by Walker, barely escaping through another vent, Miles finally makes it to the elevator. Which turns out to be rigged by Martin to go to the underground laboratory. Now Miles has to find another way out. It passes the administration block, then continues to the lab. Upon entering the lab, Miles discovers dead guards at the front desk. After passing through many hallways, Miles reaches a door that triggers an alarm. The Wall Rider chases Miles. The Wall Rider is a nanite swarm, a cloud of microscopic nanomachines capable of extreme physical manipulation. When Miles comes to a set of double doors, he is grabbed by Chris Walker and thrown aside. Before Walker can kill Miles, he is grabbed by the Wall Rider from behind, thrown into the wall, and repeatedly ripped apart from the inside. Miles automatically uses his camcorder to record this event. Miles enters a small room with dead guards and a wall of glass dividing him and Rudolph Wernicke.
I know. I am supposed to be dead. No such luck. I am older than sin, but somehow the only one left because of Billy.
Wernicke explains that Billy Hope must die, as he's the current host of the Wall Rider, and killing him would end the Wall Rider. Miles decides that he will carry out Wernicke's wishes and murder Billy. He moves deeper into the lab and finds Billy in his glass sphere, being kept alive by the morphogenic engine. Miles then closes the valve to the life support fluid reservoir and runs to disable the power across the lab. The Wall Rider appears again, chasing Miles throughout. After disabling the power, the Wall Rider grabs Miles during a jump from one catwalk to another, throwing him about, showing that the Wall Rider is relentless in his pursuits and desperate to stop Miles. After he lands, he gets up and overrides his life support's failsafe. Once he activates it, Miles draws his camera and watches Billy die. During the process, the Wall Rider grabs Miles, throwing and levitating, then dropping him several times. The Wall Rider then fuses with Miles because his previous host has died. Miles gets back up and limps to get around. Upon reaching the set of double doors, he finds Wernicke and several soldiers with weapons drawn. He puts his hands up in surrender. The guards open fire. The wall rider can be heard slaughtering the men as Miles dies on the floor. Whistleblower is the DLC that came out a year later, serving as a prequel. You now play as Waylon Park, who is the husband of Lisa Park and a father of 2 unnamed boys. He is a software engineer working at Mount Massive Asylum, working for the Murkoff Corporation. He witnesses the torturous treatment of a patient.
Help me! Don't let them do this! Don't let them... You! I know you can stop this! You have to help me!
And decides to send an email to Miles Upshur reporting on the corruption of Mount Massive. Shortly after sending it, he is caught by his employer, Jeremy Blair.
Hands where I can see him!
As a punishment, Blair has Park committed and forced to endure the test of the morphogenic engine. However, the wall rider breaks free and starts causing havoc. Park manages to escape the restraints, taking a camcorder with them. In his efforts to escape, he flees the cannibalistic prisoner named Frank Manera and Chris Walker. The entire time, he is documenting via notes where he mentions Lisa and their children. In this game, you meet one of the most terrifying antagonists ever.
Darn.
Waylon tries opening a locked door, only to be greeted by Eddie, who is pressed. Eddie pursues Waylon.
We've met before. I know you. Let me see you.
Waylon jumps down an elevator shaft to escape him and injures his leg, resulting in him limping for the rest of the game. With an injured leg, still attempting to escape Eddie, Waylon tries to hide in a locker.
A delicacy.
Eddie discovers this and drags the locker to another room. Waylon wakes up in Eddie's workshop, where he brutally mutilates others. Before the events of Mount Massive Asylum, Eddie was a charismatic and manipulative individual with a history of violence, rooted in misogyny and sociopathic tendencies, where other enemies in the series embody rage, insanity, or violence. Eddie is calm and collected. His politeness and romantic language juxtaposed with his demented actions.
No, I'm so sorry, darling. Love isn't for everybody.
When a person doesn't fit Eddie's expectation of a groom, they are disposed of and thrown away. Eddie claims to love his brides, yet his love is a mask for possession and control. His desire for Waylon is not born of genuine affection, but of a need to mold another person into a role within his delusion. Shortly after this, Eddie strips Waylon of his clothes, places him on a table, and attempts to castrate him in preparation for marriage. Just before the spinning buzzsaw reaches Waylon's body, a variant comes in and engages in a fight with Eddie. Waylon uses this distraction as an opportunity to escape through a broken window. Unlike Eddie, Waylon embodies genuine love. Even throughout the horror and violence that he suffers through, he never gives in to the madness that claimed other occupants within the asylum. With sheer resilience to survive and get back home to his child and wife. After recovering, Waylon gets up and walks into the building and sees Eddie's many previously deceased and mutilated hanging victims. After retrieving the key, Waylon is chased once more. Eddie captures him and puts a noose around Waylon's neck while berating him for betraying him.
Heavier than you look. If this is you on the honeymoon, I hate to imagine our anniversary.
Waylon fights for his life while being lifted. It is looking like it's the end of the road for him, but somehow Waylon's weight becomes too heavy to lift.
Could have been beautiful.
Waylon falls while Eddie is caught up in his own ropes and pulled upwards to be impaled on a hanging metal bar. As daylight breaks, Park continues throughout the asylum, discovering that Murkoff's military forces have already arrived at the scene and they are killing everyone they see. He finds Jeremy Blair lying against the front door pleading for help.
Let's make a deal. You help me, I'll help you.
However, as Park approaches, Blair stabs him in the stomach with a knife.
No one can know! No one!
Declaring that no one can know the truth. He is attacked and killed by the wall rider.
Oh God! Oh Christ in heaven! How to get out! No! No! No, please! No!
Waylon quickly staggers out of the room and enters Miles's Jeep. As Park enters the Jeep and starts it up, he notices a dark figure. It is Miles Upshur fused with the wall rider. Waylon slams through the entry gate, exits the asylum. In the epilogue scene, Waylon is fully recovered and is ready to upload the evidence exposing Murkoff. A man, presumably associated with the website, tells him what he's getting himself into.
You won't be the only target. Anyone you care about, your wife, your child, there'll be nothing to Murkoff but ways to hurt you. I need you to understand the bridge you're crossing here. You will do irrevocable damage to the company. You might even get close to something like justice. But once you click upload, your life is over. Everyone you love is fucked. But it's the right thing to do. Is hurting Murkoff worth that much to you?
Outlast creates a powerful feeling of powerlessness by combining its gameplay, creepy environments, limited resources, unsettling sounds. Survival is never guaranteed, and you're always barely hanging on. Instead of just showing horror, Outlast makes you feel it, turning the player from a survival into a victim of an unescapable nightmare.